Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you after the Jets' Monday night loss to San Francisco, which was highly disappointing. Now, first, let me start by taking a hit. I thought the Jets would play pretty well tonight. I thought they had a chance here to play a good game. And what I realized going in, and the Jets have a soft schedule this year. What I realized going in was probably the toughest opponent they would play this year. It doesn't get any tougher in this league than to go play San Francisco in San Francisco. But I thought the Niners might get caught in a tough spot tonight. I knew that McCaffrey had been hurting. You had the Trent Williams holdout. He hadn't had a lot of time. I thought maybe he would be interrupted tonight. He wasn't. I thought that Ayuk had missed a lot of time, that he could be bothered tonight. He did have a touchdown drop in the end zone, but that wasn't a factor. Plus, they were breaking in some people on the offensive line. That wasn't a factor. So give the Niners credit. And you knew these teams know each other very well because Saleh used to be there. So he knows the offense. They know his defense. But they're better coaches than Saleh and his staff is. They're good coaches. Shanahan learned well from his father. His father was a master of offense, a master of the running game. Shanahan is the same way. And their running game completely dominated the Jets tonight and completely dominated the ball game tonight in every single way. That was the biggest factor in this game. There were a bunch of factors, but the biggest factor was that the Niners just lined up and knocked the heck out of the Jets at the line of scrimmage and ran the ball downhill all night. And without McCaffrey, which was obviously the biggest single thing in the game. Now, let's touch on the Jet offense from a second because you're interested in Aaron Rodgers and how things went tonight. Bad drops. They have to clean that up. Silly plays. Hall's got the ball in the wrong hand, doesn't get a first down. Wilson has plenty of time to get his feet in bounds, doesn't get his feet in bounds. They wind up having to turn the ball over on fourth down and that. Sloppy plays, turnovers. The one where you can half blame Wilson, half blame Rodgers. The fumble by Hall, who had a bad night. Hall was not explosive. He didn't run well in short yardage, which has always been something people have questioned about him. He did not have any dynamic plays tonight. He had a touchdown. He didn't have a two-point conversion. He was not good in short yardage. And he did not run the ball well tonight. Let's be honest. He was 16 for 54. That's not any good. That's not any good. He wasn't a big factor in the game tonight. They took him away. And the Jets, without question, couldn't run the ball. Missed having a healthy Mike Williams because Lazard starts with a drop. I understand Lazard had some plays, including the touchdown on the play where Aaron drew him off sides. You know he's a master of that play. Put the ball right on the money, touchdown. But they need another quality wide receiver opposite Wilson. They need to get their running game going. Thought the offensive line was okay. It wasn't great. Smith got beat once by Bosa, but Bosa's really good, and that's not bad for, it's week one. I thought overall, Rodgers had time to throw the ball. The problem was they were never on the field. I mean, they were in the bulk of this game. When this game was a game, they were being dominated in the running game. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't get off the field on third down. I mean, the Niners scored 8 straight possessions, which is embarrassing. And it was over 2-1 in plays and well over 2-1 in yardage before the final numbers. Now, Taylor came down and got a meaningless touchdown, and that made the numbers look a little better, both in terms of final score and in terms of the final yardage. Made the final yardage 401-266, when really in the bulk of the game it was much better than 2-1, and plays were better than 2-1. And you can't win a game when you're going to have half as many plays. I don't care. Especially when you're working for everything that you are going to get. It's not like you're getting chunk plays and you're scoring 3 plays and turning it back over and they're having 15 play drives. That's a misleading game. That's not what was happening here. The one drive where the Jets scored, they had to work. They had to complete 3 third and longs to Wilson. 3 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and they completed them, and they got a touchdown. But overall, Jets worked for everything they got. They weren't crisp at all. They never had the football. And let's be honest, they were outclassed by the Niners. The Niners are a championship team. I told you before the season started, the two best teams in the NFC to me were San Francisco and Detroit. Detroit won a good game against the Rams last night, blew a big lead, came back, won it in overtime, and pounded the ball behind the best offensive line in the league in overtime. And then the Niners showed you their class without McCaffrey tonight and one going away. Now, they would have liked to get a couple more touchdowns, but the Jet defense was able to, in the short field, at least hold them to field goals, but they couldn't get them off the field. They couldn't stop the running game at all, and they didn't get any pressure. Big winner tonight. In my mind, Reddick. Hey, if you don't think the Jets need him, what are you looking at? First thing, Jets are not the same team against the run they were early last year. They weren't late last year. They don't have the same personnel. They're not the same team. So they have to prove they're going to be dynamic against the run, and they sure weren't tonight. They got punched in the mouth. So they have to prove that. Reddick, to me, based it all on week one. If the defense doesn't do well in week one, they're going to come running to me. I expect the Jets to go running to him starting tomorrow. If the Jets had been good tonight, if they had put Purdy on his back all night, if they had shut the Niners down tonight and won this game or made it a 19-17 game, Jets could have played hardball with Reddick. They can't now. They need him. The idea they didn't need him was silly. So get him in here. Get a deal done you can live with and get him in here now before this gets destructive. You look at the schedule, the Jets are going to play in short order here. They're going to have a short work week this week because they got to come back across the country, and they got to go play on the road in week 2. They're going to open the season with 2 road games, which is never easy, especially when you go on the West Coast in week 1. And then they're going to play on Thursday night against a Patriot team, which has already won a game. And if they play Jacoby Brissett, they're a threat. If they played a kid at quarterback, they played a rookie, which they're not going to do, I don't think. If they did, they wouldn't be a threat. With Jacoby Brissett, they're a threat. So you have to at least honor who they are. You're going to play on Thursday night. So you're going to have a couple of games in short order. You're going to have a short week this week again because you're coming back. You lose tomorrow. And you got to go back on the road this week again. Play Tennessee, which, listen, collapsed. Never should have lost to Chicago, but did. And did by started with a block punt and then a bunch of turnovers, and they wound up giving the game away and losing a 17-0 lead on the road, which has got to be totally demoralizing to that team. To Levis and to their entire team, it has to be completely demoralizing to lose that game the way they did. Jets got them in week 2. Then they get New England. Then they get, I think, Denver and Buffalo. So they can get off to a fast start here. No one's going crazy. We knew, hey, if they had come out of week 1, if we had done this podcast tonight and they had won the game, people would have been going gaga about the Jets because this was San Francisco on the road in week 1. Everyone realized. Now, like I said, I thought they were going to catch San Francisco short. They didn't. That's to San Francisco's credit. Their rebuilt offensive line played well. Their defense did a great job against Hall. They made plays in the secondary. And I was very, very disillusioned by the Jet defense tonight because they have enough playmakers that they had enough chances for somebody to make a stop, make a big play, force them into a 2nd and 17 or 3rd and 17. They never got them into a negative situation the entire game. They got whatever they wanted. And let's be honest, Purdy missed a couple of plays that he had open, and Ayuk missed a perfect pass from Purdy in the end zone that he dropped. Otherwise, this game's even more one-sided. They settled for a whole bunch of field goals, but they did score on 8 straight possessions. They got 400 yards of offense, and they ran the ball for 180 yards against what's supposed to be a good defense. The Jets like to talk a big game defensively. They got their rear end kicked tonight. They got to prove that they're going to be that defensive team. They got to step up and have the guy step up who's supposed to be there to make plays. And they didn't do that tonight anywhere throughout that defensive lineup. And, of course, Salah comes in, and I'm not expecting Salah to come out in week one. I'm not expecting any coach to come out in week one and go into crisis mode because you can't coach that way, not when it's a 17-game schedule. But the idea that, hey, we'll be fine. No. When you get run on like that, you know what? Admit you're disappointed. Admit you took a punch in the mouth. And say, hey, you know what? We played a top team, but they kicked our rear end tonight. That's who we want to be. That's how we want to be. And that wasn't there because they continue to have the drop in the wrong spot, the sloppy play in the wrong spot, the turnover in the wrong spot, and things that did bother you. The fact they couldn't get off the field on third down, the fact that they didn't put any pressure on, and the fact that they did get pushed around at the line of scrimmage with the running game, outside and inside. They got pushed around inside the tackles. They got pushed around outside. They're running downhill with a backup running back all night who wound up with, I think he wound up with 145 yards rushing. He was 28 for 147. He got 28 carries, which means he's having great success, and they love what they're doing. Otherwise, your backup running back's never going to see 20. Your starting running back rarely sees 28 carries in a game. He saw 28 for 147. And his long was 24, which means he was knocking out a lot of 7s and 8s and 9s and 5s. Way too many. Just didn't turn the ball over. Their defense didn't get a turnover. They got a couple of sacks, but the pressure was even though they got a couple of sacks, the pressure was non-existent. And the play against the run was putrid. This was a bad performance. It was a sloppy, messy performance from the defense, from the offense. Do I think they didn't have a rhythm? Yes. But you know what? The drops bother you. The turnovers bother you. The short yardage inefficiency bothers you. If you're going to be a real team, that's not going to happen. I understood they could lose this game tonight. And they could lose this game tonight and hold their head high. But they didn't. They got their rear ends kicked tonight. This game wasn't close. That last touchdown, all it is making the game look cosmetically better. Do I agree with them pulling Aaron? Yes. They're going to play a lot of football in the next 10 days. There's no reason to have him out there late in a one-sided game. God forbid something happens. There's no reason. Let Taylor play. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not the point. We know that Aaron can still do things. Listen, Aaron's not going to run back there. You know that. You don't want him moving that much. You don't want him running that much. You want him staying in the pocket. So you're going to have to protect him. I think they can do that. I don't have any questions that the offensive line can do that. They got to be better on short yardage, and Hall got to get away from the idea that he's not a good short yardage back, that he's just a home run hitter. And he's got to be better because there's a mentality to turning 1 into 4, to breaking the tackle, getting low, pushing, and getting 3 when you need 3, and getting 2, and getting 3 when you need 2, and not falling short in the short yardage situations. There's a toughness, there's a get low, there's get you down and get gritty and get tough in those situations and push the pile. Otherwise, you're not that back. You're just a home run hitter. And he's got to prove that. And they have to prove that because you know what? You got to convert. If you want to be a good team in this league, you got to convert your 3rd and 1s and your 4th and 1s. You got to move the chains. And you don't want to have to pass the ball all the time to do it, especially with you have a team where the quarterback is immobile. It takes away a very big element that the defense doesn't have to defend. A mobile quarterback in that spot, you have to buy. You got to make sure who the ball was handed off. You got to make sure he's not moving one way with the ball. You have a lot of things you can do with a mobile quarterback on those short yardage plays. Yeah, they don't have that. And you don't want him to do that. You want him to take as few hits as possible. He's 40 years old. He can still drop the ball on a dime. He can still deliver the prettiest passes you've ever seen. He is incredibly accurate. Even his interception wasn't a real interception. You know what he can do. I think it was a positive that Lazard got some numbers after that first drop because you don't want him to go into the tank like he did last year. But they need another receiver on the other side, and you're hoping that Williams can be that guy because he's still a talented guy if he's healthy enough to do it. Now, if he's not, you're going to have to look elsewhere. But you know you're going to be feeding the ball to Hall and to Wilson on this team. That's the way the team's built. And that's fine. Those are two major, big-time talents. But their mentality has to change. And I hate that this coach, whose lifetime record is 18-34, does not seize an opportunity to jump his team right now. You know what? They heard a lot of big things about their team in the offseason. They had heard a lot of people saying nice things about them. They had a lot of people picking them to go deep into the playoffs. You know what? They have a habit of getting very smug about their defense and smug about who they are. This is a time to smack them down and say, you know what? Prove it. Instead, I'm not worried about my defense. I'm not worried about your run defense. Why not? You got your rear end kicked tonight. Why wouldn't you be worried about it? It's an opportunity to send a message to your team. And send a message to that front office to get that player that you need in there. How many more of these do you need before you realize that you need Reddick? You went and got him. What the hell did you get him for? To have this be a distraction all year? He's going to get to be a bigger and bigger distraction if he doesn't get in there now. He won the negotiation tonight. He won it. His defense didn't show up. Use that to make a deal that you can live with and he can live with. And get him in here and let's get going in the right direction. That's what you take out of this. You can build from this. They have a very winnable game 2. They have a very winnable game 3. They have a very winnable game 4. Don't give those weeks away trying to make a point. You don't want to send that message to this team. You don't. You want this team to get off to the start that you can live with. Home games after, if they can get the Tennessee game, home games with the Pats and the Broncos should land you 3-1 after 4 games, which is fine. Getting ready for Buffalo. The Vikings and then Buffalo. So I forgot one. So Vikings and then the Bills on Monday night. So the Minnesota game, again, a winnable game in game 5. Another winnable game. Not as easy as maybe the Broncos and the Pats, but a winnable game. So this team's capable of having a big next 4 weeks before they see Buffalo on a Monday night in what is going to be obviously one of the pivotal games of the season. And they can build off this loss. This loss doesn't kill them in the standings because you could make, like I said, a very good case. This is the toughest game they will face this year. We all know that. But that doesn't mean you excuse some of the rotten stuff you saw on the field tonight. You went out there tonight and got smacked. That wasn't the idea. The idea was to go out there and show that while you may have lost on the scoreboard, that you were the real deal. You didn't do that. You didn't do that. All you did was create some question marks about your team. But it was an opportunity, if you know what you're doing as a head coach, to jump on your team and maybe take a little of the swagger out of them right now and make them go back to work, which is what you want at this point of the season. Make them hungry and make them question themselves a little bit. Don't let them think that they're better than they are. Right now, make them earn it. And that's why every week you wonder about this coaching staff. And until I see stuff that makes me think that this guy understands what it is to lead an NFL team, I don't take that as anything but a negative with this team. I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers right now. I can tell you right now, I'm not worried about Hall or Wilson right now. I'm a little worried about their ability to stop the run, because I see things that dated back to last year and changes in personnel that have to be answered now. And I think it starts with getting Reddick in the fold. Eliminate that distraction and get a player who is a distinct upgrade into the lineup. And do it now. We'll see you later.